I'm sure we can all agree it must be heartbreaking to lose in the NBA Finals. You work so hard all season to get there, just to go home with nothing. But it makes you that much more focused and driven to get back there and be on the winning side next time. And that's exactly what these teams did. They sought redemption to make things right. So I'm gonna run through the list of teams who got revenge in the NBA Finals. I decided to name them off in chronological order, just to keep things organized. And keep in mind, I'm gonna go through these pretty quickly because I don't want this video to be too long. So let's begin. 1957. The Boston Celtics were taking on the St. Louis Hawks, in what was a very close series. Almost every game was decided by only 2 points. The teams were very evenly matched, which led to a Game 7, a winner-takes-all contest. The game went to double overtime, and that's when Bob Pettit missed a crucial layup to tie the game. With Bob Pettit choking down the stretch, the Celtics would win their first ever championship in franchise history. Fast forward to 1958, it was a rematch between the Hawks and Celtics, and the Celtics were heavy favorites going into the series. The teams would split the first 2 games. But in Game 3, Bill Russell would go down with an injury, and before you know it, the Hawks went up 3-2. Bill Russell did manage to make a return, but had very little impact on the game, and would lose in 6 games. With Bob Pettit scoring 50 points in Game 6, he certainly redeemed himself from the previous year. 1972 NBA Finals. The Knicks would face off against the Lakers. But early on, Willis Reed and Earl Monroe would both suffer injuries and were easily knocked off in 5 games. But in 1973, the tables were turned. Jerry West would get injured. And after losing Game 1, the Knicks won 4 in a row to beat the Lakers in 5 games, with Willis Reed named the Finals MVP. 1978. It was the Washington Bullets versus the Seattle Supersonics. The Sonics jumped out to a 3-2 lead in the series. But all of a sudden, Dennis Johnson would start to play horribly, allowing the Bullets to force a Game 7. And his lackluster play would continue by going 0 for 14 from the field, and ultimately, the Washington Bullets claimed victory. And Dennis Johnson would later admit that he choked. So the 1979 Finals would come along, and this time, the Sonics were not playing around. After losing a very close Game 1, the Sonics destroyed the Bullets by winning 4 consecutive games, and Dennis Johnson dominated on both ends of the court, winning Finals MVP and making up for what he did a year before. 1982, Los Angeles Lakers versus the Philadelphia 76ers. Going into the series, the Sixers had already lost 2 previous finals to the Lakers, and this year wasn't any different. They had no answer for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and lost in 6 games. But the following year, in 1983, things definitely looked different. The Sixers went out and signed the reigning MVP Moses Malone, and early on, it was clear they finally had an answer for Kareem. Malone dominated the glass, and pair that with Julius Erving's spectacular play, the Sixers would sweep the Lakers, finally defeating Los Angeles in the NBA Finals. 1984, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird would face off in this epic matchup. The Lakers had several opportunities to put a stranglehold on the series, but Magic and Worthy blew it at the end of Game 2, which would have put them up 2-0 in the series, and then blew Game 4 down the stretch, which would have put them up 3-1 in the series. And eventually, those mistakes came back to haunt them in Game 7. They couldn't close the deal, and the Boston Celtics were champions. The following year, in 1985, we were treated with another Lakers-Celtics finals once again. The Celtics dominated Game 1. Things were not looking bright for LA, but then, the Lakers handled business by winning the next 2 games. Los Angeles had another chance to go up 3-1 in the series, but Dennis Johnson would hit the game winner to even up the series. But after that, the Lakers would play flawlessly. Everyone played exceptionally well for LA. The Lakers got redemption, and Kareem won Finals MVP. 1988, the Detroit Pistons finally got past the Celtics to advance to the NBA Finals, and the Lakers were waiting for them on the other side. With the Pistons' very physical play, it helped them take a 3-2 lead in the series, but that lead wouldn't last. In Game 6, Isaiah Thomas would suffer an ankle injury, but with his desire to win, stayed in the game and would score an incredible 25 points in the third quarter. But with a controversial call late in the game, the Pistons couldn't close the deal. Then we had a Game 7, but with Isaiah Thomas limited with an ankle injury, the Lakers closed out the series and won the trophy. But the very next year in 1989, Byron Scott injured his hamstring before the series even started, and in Game 2, Magic Johnson would suffer the same hamstring injury. So with the Lakers starting backcourt out for the series, the Pistons inevitably swept the Lakers. In 2006, Dirk Nowitzki and the Dallas Mavericks would go head-to-head against a veteran Shaquille O'Neal, a rising star Dwayne Wade, and the Miami Heat. The Mavericks started off great, claiming an early 2-0 lead. It looked like Dallas was on their way to winning the title, but all of a sudden, D-Wade flipped the switch and completely went off, carrying the Heat to 4 straight victories, and won the 2006 NBA title. Now, fast forward 5 years in 2011, the Dallas Mavericks would get the opportunity to face the Miami Heat once again. Now I know the 2006 NBA Finals and the 2011 NBA Finals were several years apart, but both teams basically had the same squad. The only difference, however, Miami would replace Shaq with LeBron James and Chris Bosh. Everyone thought the Mavericks had zero chance to win the series, but Dallas was determined to not let 2006 happen all over again. LeBron would go on to have one of his worst finals performances in his career, and the Mavs shocked the world by winning the Larry O'Brien Trophy. 2008, the epic rivalry of the Lakers and Celtics would continue. The Celtics managed to form a super team with Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. And on the other side, the Lakers had the MVP of the league, Kobe Bryant. Both teams were evenly matched to start the series. But then, the Lakers would fall victim to an epic collapse by blowing a 24-point lead in Game 4. And from there on, the Lakers couldn't quite recover from that devastating loss and were eliminated in 6 games. The Lakers did find some sort of redemption by defeating the Orlando Magic the very next year, but it was nothing compared to what we got to see the following year in 2010. Fans would get to witness another chapter of the Lakers-Celtics rivalry, something Kobe was definitely looking forward to as well. And right away, the series would live up to the hype. The teams would trade blows back and forth, which eventually led to a Game 7. It was win or go home. Kobe would struggle to start the game, but the rest of the team had his back and somehow squeezed out the win, and Kobe captured his 5th ring. In 2013, the Miami Heat was on top of the basketball world. They were fresh off winning the championship the previous year and were looking to go back-to-back, and the only thing in their way was the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs would win an epic Game 1, showing everyone they should be taken seriously. Now fast forward to Game 6. It looked like San Antonio was on the verge of capturing another title to add to their epic dynasty, but we all know what happened next. Late in the game, Manu Ginobili would split 2 free throws, which led to LeBron knocking down a clutch 3-pointer. Then, Kawhi Leonard would step to the line, but just like Ginobili, he missed one of his free throws as well, which left the door wide open for one of the most iconic shots ever to happen. And by then, it was Miami with all the momentum, and the Spurs were not able to bounce back in Game 7. But in 2014, it was a completely different story. The Spurs would run Miami off the court, blowing them out by a record finals margin, which certainly helped ease the pain from the previous year. Later on in 2014, LeBron would rejoin the Cleveland Cavaliers with a brand new sidekick, Kyrie Irving, along with Kevin Love. And in 2015, they easily punched their ticket to the NBA Finals. And on the other side, the MVP of the league, Steph Curry, and the Golden State Warriors. But the Cavs would have to play on without Kevin Love due to injury. Game 1 was very intense, coming down to the wire, and eventually went into overtime. But unfortunately, Kyrie suffered a gruesome knee injury, and despite LeBron displaying some epic performances, he wasn't able to carry the Cavs over the hump, and the Warriors would prove to be too much for them. Heading into the year of 2016, the Warriors were looking like juggernauts. They put the whole league on notice by winning 73 games, and after somehow surviving the Western Conference Finals, the Warriors were looking to put a cherry on top of their record-breaking season. And it looked like they were going to pull it off by taking a commanding 3-1 lead. But with some unfortunate injuries to the Warriors, the tables were turned, and the Cavs couldn't care less. LeBron can sense that they were vulnerable and miraculously defeated the Warriors in 7 games, even though the Warriors did get some revenge of their own in 2017. I'm not really going to count that one because with Kevin Durant joining them, it basically made it unfair. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what was your favorite one out of all of these NBA Finals. Make sure to comment down below and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.